Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and this is Just Thinking. Welcome to our annual series of interviews of candidates for local government offices. The town election is May 20th. We have contests for select board between a challenger and an incumbent. For park commission, we have 4 candidates for 2 open seats. For school committee, we have 4 candidates for 2 seats with 1 incumbent. And for library trustees, we have 4 candidates for 2 seats. 2 candidates are incumbents, but 1 incumbent declined to be interviewed. That was an incumbent for the library. I am interviewing all these candidates. I have prepared specific questions for each board or committee. Each candidate will respond to the same questions for that office in their interview. I ask a few different questions of incumbents to reflect their years of service. Voters can compare the candidates' responses. The interviews are done one at a time and will be posted when all the candidates for an office have been interviewed. My goal is to have the videos run 30 minutes, except maybe longer for school committee. I had a lot of questions. The videos will be available on HCAP's website, on HCAP's YouTube channel, and on our Facebook page. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. So the next interview is with Barbara Ryan, who is running for the school committee. Before I begin that, I will again repeat what I have with other candidates. I will remind viewers that the school committee has 3 very specific areas of responsibility under state law: hiring and firing the superintendent, policies, and the budget. The school committee cannot manage the operations of the school. So, Barbara, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mary.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And so why are you running? Is there anything in particular that drew you to do it?
Well, I'm running for school committee because I care deeply about this community, the education of our children, and about the well-being of our staff and teachers. Those are really the things that have propelled me to throw my hat in the ring.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What delineates you from other candidates, and do you have any unique experience?
I have, I think, a lot of different experiences. I have a 30-plus year career in different sectors, public and private. I'm an Army veteran. I served for 20 years in various leadership roles. Professionally, I've been a CEO, a COO, a chief of staff. I've taken care of patients at the bedside. I've also taken care of children in acute care settings as a pediatric nurse practitioner. But most of all, I'm a mom, I'm an active community member, and I'm an advocate for good. And I just see an opportunity to create what I believe is more cohesion within the school's administration, with the Holliston Federation of Teachers, within the school committee. I just see such an opportunity to bring people together in a way that I haven't completely seen. And I think I can do that with my experience and with my heart to serve.
Okay. What will be your priorities?
I have around the tenets of community, commitment, and common sense. And community, I've been involved in the community. I believe in this community. We moved here in 2019, so I'm a new Hollistonian.
Just before the pandemic.
Yeah, and I had 4th and 8th graders at that time, and our first bubble was EEE.
Oh.
And then we went into the pandemic, but we always felt welcome here. It's such a generous and strong community, and not only were we drawn to the schools, but that sense of spirit that we felt was Holliston, certainly the idyllic kind of New England-esque town that it is.
Where did you come from?
Washington, D.C. I'd retired out of there. My husband was still active duty at the time, and so we'd been there for about 13 years, and then woke up one day and said, what are we doing here, and where do we want to be? And my husband's from Western Massachusetts,
okay,
and I'm from the foothills of the Adirondacks. Okay. I did my master's degree in Boston, and so this has always felt like home in a way. And
okay,
we love New England and the Northeast.
Okay, all right. Now you said that there were, in your priorities, you said community,
yes,
and then you went on to talk about commitment.
Commitment.
And
so
common sense.
I'm
so
committed,
let's go through those.
When we talk about the schools, certainly committed to academic excellence. And what I mean by that is I think We have to create opportunities through policy, working together, supporting our staff and teachers, working administration, to create those opportunities for all learners to succeed, right? And looking at outcomes. I think the schools have had a great reputation. I think we can build on that excellence and really elevate the reputation that we know as Holliston schools. And so I'm committed to that. And again, like you said, the school committee does policy, does budget, and really hires and evaluates and or fires, but we like to say hire and evaluate the superintendent. So I think in that, I think when you work together and you're committed to really the student and the people who really have to make it happen every day in the classroom, that's where the excellence will come from. That's my commitment. And then common sense. My 30-plus years of experience, and now as a community member, where I've been part of the PTO as a volunteer. I'm the current executive board president the last 2 years. I'm on the Drug and Alcohol Committee, and I'm on the Wellness Council for the schools. And what I've been able to do is build relationships throughout town and with really good people, very generous people, from business owners to that. But I think common sense when it comes to prioritization. Budget is always going to be a concern. We are the largest line item in town. We certainly have to value the people who do the work, and salaries commensurate with that. But beyond that, we have to be able to prioritize what makes sense, what do we need to do, what are the requirements, and kind of push through sometimes with common sense to get to the solution. Work collaboratively, bring everyone's voice to the table, listen first, be really curious, and then together, again, with I think that notion of a common sense approach and listening to voices and coming up with the best solution, that's what I think I can do and I'd like to do as a leader and as, again, a mom and an advocate for good and a community member.
Okay, so you mentioned the budget, and it is always a huge part of everything every board has to deal with. How do you establish your priorities for that?
Based on experience developing budgets and executing them, I think working with the superintendent and assistant superintendents who have that responsibility to execute a budget and to help develop it, but the school committee needs to bring their own questions. What we did with the PTO recently, because we rely on the generosity of this community, we prioritized things in 3 buckets. Not the same thing, but what are the things we absolutely have to do? And what are the things we are not willing to give up? What are the things that are nice to do that if we could include? And what are the things that we shouldn't be doing, right? So I think when you come, again, with that common sense approach, there are requirements. I think we need to always take care of the most vulnerable parts of our schools and the most vulnerable learners, what we have to be aware of in these curious times, not knowing where federal funding may or may not be cut off, what the state will do with Medicare, Medicaid being the largest line item for the state of Massachusetts, and education right behind that. Knowing this state has a very healthy rainy day fund, but if a lot of things go away, where does that $9 billion go and how do they pan that out? So what does that mean to our community? I think we have to be very considerate of this. Again, I use the word generous. I'm going to use it a lot. We had a very generous community vote for an override last year. That was a lot of money. So how do we take care of business, be respectful of the community and the tax base that provides the money, prioritize what we have to do versus what we would like to do. I'm not afraid of tough conversations or making hard decisions, but I will always listen first, make sure we have the right voices at the table, and then collaboratively create a budget that makes sense for this town and for the education of our schools. Not easy. I don't think it's easy, nor the times are easy. But I think this school committee, particularly this past year, really worked hard to create a budget that's coming to town meeting this year. I've been going to a lot of meetings this year to get smarter. Not honestly knowing that I was going to run for school committee, but just, again, I want to be an active community member and understand.
Going to school committees.
Yeah.
It's a good way. It's a good way to know whether or not you can really,
It's a
enjoy.
huge commitment.
That's right. That is
It's a huge commitment
Whether
in
you
time.
can enjoy it enough that you can fit it into your life, because it's not an easy position. A lot of meetings.
Agreed.
A lot of meetings.
Right.
Not just the ones that everybody focuses on, but you've got a lot of subcommittees that are busy doing different
Yes.
things. So you're always busy.
Yeah, I was able to go to a budget subcommittee meeting. I was interested in, the school committee has been very supportive. We, again, the PTO, if I can go to that experience, we've taken in a lot of volunteers, and we've taken in a lot of money, and we follow that process where the school committee has to accept the donations, which they have. Again, when we were looking at our priorities, it was to start those conversations and this budget cycle going to town meeting. Here's the things we think we can do in the next 12 to 24 to 36 months and how we supplement. Here's maybe where you might need to consider these line items to permanently place in a budget. That maybe the PTO doesn't have any business sponsoring XYZ.
Yeah.
So that's how I started to get involved and understand a little bit more.
Okay. So how do you think that the school district is doing at all three levels? Are we competitive with our neighbors? And then what's good and what needs improvement?
It's interesting. I think everybody would have their own opinion about that.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we were drawn here. My sister lived here, has a deep professional background in education. They chose to live in Holliston, and then her husband was posted overseas. Again, the draw of the schools. Good people come to work every day, and great things happen in our classrooms. I think right now, from my perspective, there seem to be some disjointed feelings or senses, and some people say our reputation has fallen, or you look at our ranking, if you give a lot of credence to ranking. And I think it's important to strive to be the best. And so I think there's absolutely an opportunity to highlight all the excellence that happens today. I've gone through, again, volunteering and developing relationships with all the building leaders, the principals. I know these people work so hard, and I went to the school committee meetings in the fall where they were saying, here's what we do, here's what we're trying to do. So I think in the day-to-day operation we do well. I think our reputation is great. I think it could be seen as better, and working together cohesively we can do that. I just see a lot of thoughtfulness in our teachers and our principals, what we're trying to do, tying threads through curricula, having different audits, how to make us better. So overall, I think we have great schools. Can we always do better? Yes. Do we have an opportunity to strengthen our reputation? Absolutely. And I'm confident that I would always listen first and see what people need to help not only move what happens in the classroom along, but how do we help others understand how great we are.
Is there one thing that you would suggest for improvement? Is there one area? Is there one somewhere in that we can be great, and as you
So
say,
pointed.
It's opinion, but it's a little bit more, okay, what's working, what's not working is a little more specific than that.
And I think one of the questions that I did receive, thank you, was about math. And I know there have been a couple subcommittees, and I know there is a lot of passion from our math department. I've talked to math teachers, I've talked to tutors. My mother was a math teacher, and so in looking at particularly this department from pre-K through 12, there was an opportunity again, from what I'm hearing from our administrators, to draw this line, not tell you how to teach in your classroom or the methodology, but making sure that when we progress, all students at any level of learner will be able to meet the standard and get what they need. I believe all students should have that opportunity, whether they're the ones who are running fast and can do accelerated math or advanced math, to the kids who might struggle, and then there's everyone else. I don't believe in de-leveling. Based on my conversations, based on conversations with my mother, a math teacher, it would take a very, very special teacher to be able to teach a spectrum of students and make sure everybody is getting what they need. You create vulnerabilities by trying to do everything for everybody at different levels. So that is an example where I think this district has tried to be thoughtful, is being thoughtful, but I think we really need to listen to our educators. I think we need to, a lot of people have asked me that question already as a person running for this seat. I think the conversations need to continue, but we need to not create new vulnerabilities by trying to be everything to everybody at the same time. I'll use a line from my mother. You teach to the lowest common denominator, whether you like it or not, in your classroom. And so you worry about the kids who need a little bit more. You worry about the majority that you're trying to teach, and rightfully so, you're spending a lot of time with students who need more. So I don't believe in de-leveling. I think math is an opportunity.
Can I just back up? You said that the educational leaders and so forth, if I understand correctly, and I'm going to interrupt here just to say this question comes up later, and I want to explain de-leveling and leveling the math curriculum right now, or has been levels. So if in fact you were able to take an advanced math course, when you got to the high school, you'd be able to do calculus before you graduated. And what has happened in the case of de-leveling, eliminating levels, what would happen is that you would no longer have the preparation.
Okay.
You would no longer have the courses you need to take by the time you get to high school, and therefore you might not have calculus. And for anybody that's going to be in a STEM program, whether for science or any math or anything, they're going to need that calculus before they go to college. So the language, just as for the public as much as anything, the language is confusing, but leveling is, we do have accommodation for low, middle, high. In de-leveling, we are saying the teacher will make those accommodations within the classroom, low, medium, high, on his or her own. And that's what the debate is about. If I understand correctly, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent are interested in de-leveling, that is, to making it level. I hate this names.
Well, I agree. The leveling and de-leveling is very, even in my conversation, maybe that's not even the right word.
It isn't the right word.
How do we meet children where they need to be met in curricula with the opportunity that, maybe the next Pulitzer Prize writer's here, and maybe the next, researcher, scientist who's heavy STEM is here, but maybe that person really doesn't write well, and this person really never wants anything to do with math, but both need a basic education. But putting them together, I don't know if necessarily makes sense, right?
I guess what I'm trying to ferret out is, if from your understanding from a step.
And I'd have to ask more questions,
okay,
and I'd have to
fair.
sit with the superintendent and assistant superintendent. I know this conversation comes with a lot of passion.
Yeah.
I know there are people maybe putting stakes in the ground, but we really need to look at
have the conversation.
Look at what DESE is saying.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to ask
Look at
about.
what DESE is saying.
So the Department of Education has weighed in on this, right?
Right, and I don't know the each's and knowns, but this is how I am. I'm curious. I need to have conversations with people at all levels, starting at the top, the classroom, if I'm able to, and I have that permission to speak to people freely as a school committee member, and then try to get people together and duke it out, for lack of a better word, right? Yeah. We may not sing Kumbaya together or be in the same choir or whatever the song of choice, but we've got to be able to come to the table. And maybe everybody doesn't get everything they want, but we've got to keep the student at the center of what we do. And then the people who have to execute that. And then the buffer is the administration. And then the school community is the wraparound. Again, focus on policy. How do we pay for it? Budget. And then leadership with the superintendent.
Okay, I think I've.
But I agree. The leveling.
The leveling is just so confusing.
It's very. Maybe there's a better word. And
I think there must
but I
be,
think it's an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for me to learn more if I have the privilege of being elected, and to continue that conversation. But I think going back to what is an area of opportunity, that was a very pointed and I had an opinion about the other question. So I thought I think that's one of the biggest conversations happening in our community right now, and I think it's important. And we have to listen to the community and concerned parents and caregivers. And again, bring people together to create understanding, answer curiosity, and then come up with a solution to help all learners succeed.
Okay. Well, we're sort of, I'm going to repeat, ask the questions in order. Some of this we've been, knitting together as we've gone along here, but that's fine. We'll iron it out. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing the school system today and in your 3-year term? So given what we've talked about, what is the challenge? What is the, I don't want to say it's already an obstacle, but you've talked a lot about certain themes. And what is that?
So I wrote this down. I sat, contemplated, tried to be curious. And again, I have my experience as a mom and as a parent, having 2 children come, one through the schools and one currently his first year in high school. So I bring that experience. But then I have to go outside of that and say, what else do I see? And these different areas that I've been involved with, whether it's the Wellness Council or working with people, through volunteering, even the Drug and Alcohol Coalition, trying to understand where vulnerabilities around substance use or even misuse happen. So I think the budget is always going to be a challenge and an opportunity. I think prioritizing as well as balancing a budget and meeting not only the needs of our students but our educators, right? How do you do that? So I think that's a challenge. I also think the mental health and well-being of our students is also something that is challenging. Yes, they're there to receive an education, but if the environment doesn't support them in ways that they need to be supported, whatever that means to that student or that family, and just knowing the data and having my pediatric hat on, seeing my own children wade through adolescence.
Oh, yeah.
And then add the pandemic. I think we're still learning about the effects of the pandemic. I've had a lot of experience in life. It was still a tough time for me and everyone. And I think the soldier in me was like, and the nurse, we're fine, we're okay, we're just going to keep going. And then you wake up one day
and afterwards,
you really see how this affected children at all phases. I watched my nieces wade through this. And so I think mental health challenges are real. The well-being, when you think of social media, technology, all of that. Our kids are here to learn, but how do we support them in a way that helps them to show up, take responsibility for their role in learning, and to be happy to come to school? I think happiness is underrated. And happiness in adolescence isn't the same at this phase in life, but I think the mental health and well-being. And then my last, I think of challenges as opportunities. How do you strike a balance with policy and curriculum? Right? What are those things that, math being one of those things that's got the loudest audience or the loudest presence right now, but what are those things down the road? What do we need to be looking at? How do we look at policy and curriculum? A big thing for me in this is technology. When we first moved here, I worked with the guidance counselor. Like, we'd like a list of the textbooks. And a week went by, and I'm like, well, it's the new school year. I said, hi, it's just me again, we're new. Do you have, she goes, we really don't have textbooks anymore. I'm showing my chronology. So how do we balance technology with hands-on learning, with experiential learning, with project, how do we blend that? And how do we look at AI and that influence in how I learn, how I deliver products, and what does that mean in our school system? So I really think not just policy and curriculum, but looking specifically at technology in the classroom, and then futuristically looking at what does AI mean and how we educate our children and prepare them for their futures.
Wow. Okay. You and I are having too much fun.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that too much?
No, I think it's great. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. I just want to be sure I give you equal time for all of these things. All right?
Thank you. So, cut me off, Mary.
Well, it's interesting to listen to people's perspective. I'm enjoying this year. We have, I think that we have wonderful people running for office this year. Not that we haven't in the past, but there just seems to be this light going on, and I don't know what it is, but I don't want to take up your time. So, out-of-district placements of students are more expensive than educating them within our boundaries. So, why do you think so many more students are being placed elsewhere, are asking for alternative kinds of education? And what do you see your role on the school committee being to look at why it's happening and what you can do?
I did ask a few people in the time frame I had these questions, and to have, again, come from a place of curiosity, and not so much, is this true, but what is the truth behind this, right? I know Holliston continues to be a school of choice, and that creates a passive income for the school. However, I also understand more students are choosing to go to our technical schools, whether it's the Aggie or Keefe Tech, maybe looking at the future of, is it AI? Is it just because I want to have my own business? And that is definitely, we have so many wonderful business leaders and generous business owners in this town. And maybe students are inspired by being a business owner in a trade. So is it that? And I think we are seeing more students apply to those places. The second part, out of that, I don't see that as a problem, but I do know we have gone to the trough, if you will, at least 5 or 6 times about a new high school. So is this an opportunity for Holliston to really look at the future, look at why students are maybe going on? There's always private choice, right?
Sure.
There's always a student or a family that says, I'm going to go to X school for these reasons. Great. That people have that choice, right? But public education is where I came from, and I believe in a strong public education. How do we bring people back in? I think you have to ask people, why are you either applying or why are you leaving? What's motivating you? I talked about our reputation. The reason why we moved here, even my sister moved here. Is it strong enough? We know excellence happens every day, but what are we doing to highlight that? So one, some of the information I have is more students are going to technical schools. There's always private choice. I have to go ask more questions if elected and dig down into numbers. And what does that mean for us paying out? And what is it that attracted people here to our school system, and do we continue to do that and create a passive income that way? So I have some information, not all, but that's what I know. Is it a bad thing for students to find their way in the place they want to do that? No. Do we have the environment where students feel good about going to school every day, and families feel good, my child's getting a top-rate education? I think we have done that, and I think we can continue to do that.
Okay. So Holliston's district has recommitted to diversity, equity, and inclusion, despite some of the national trends and the renunciation of all references to DEI by the president. How do you feel about this local response?
I am in support. I come from a family of a lot of different types of people. That's in thought. That's in race, that's in belief systems, that's in how families are created. My family happens to be created through adoption, and I'm so grateful for that. And diversity, equity, inclusion means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and there's a debate on actually what do those things even mean. I don't want to politicize that because I think it's wrong, but I believe in people. My grandmother emigrated from Poland. This country, the fabric of this country, what makes us great are all the different types of people and our pride in our own heritage. And there's nothing wrong to be celebratory about that. You and I might think differently about something. We might look differently. But at the end of the day, what makes us different makes us better. Think about the opposite of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do I want to live in a bubble? Do I want to create access for all learners, or am I going to exclude people by not doing that? I think putting your arm around someone, making sure we have opportunities for different types of people, feeling good about coming to school, no matter how I identify, no matter how I learn, it's really important. And equity, right? It's about access. It's about equalness. Aren't we about that? I served my country for 20 years. I believe in your freedom of speech and thought. But what I think we can do is turn the temperature down. I think we can be welcoming. I moved here because not only are the schools, this town is a great town. And I've lived all over the world, and I've lived in a lot of different places, and we chose to be here. And I believe in the generosity of this town, the hard work in this town, the people in this town, and I think we're better than what we're seeing outside of this town. I think we live the values of being welcoming, hardworking, and trying to make a good place for everyone to live and to choose to live.
Okay. So speaking for myself, I don't have children in the schools at this point in life. My grandchildren have graduated from these schools, except for the one who went to Norfolk Aggie, but she's graduated now, so I have no personal ties to the school. And that's true for 2/3 of the town's households. And that makes it difficult when you come to a situation like the override, when you have to now explain to 2/3 of the town why this little is going on, this storm over here, what does it mean, how did we get here, and while we're at it, will you please pay more for whatever that is? How do you fix that? How do you get to the point that the outsiders, me, know what's going on?
Having been an active participant in school committee meetings, and one thing the pandemic did give us, good and bad, was Zoom, or the ability to connect. So there's access to meetings. School committee hosts hours. I believe in management by walking around. I used to do that in the buildings I ran, or the floors I ran, or the people who worked for me. I think it's important to get yourself out there. Yeah. It's great to be somewhere and say, come meet me, but how do I get out in the community? I have been communicating a lot of, in my experience, I was public health communications. I used to do a lot of writing and speech writing. Again, you have to meet people where they are. Is that through social media? Is that old-fashioned like me? I want to come sit and have a cup of coffee and hear what you have to say, or maybe you have questions for me. The PTO, I'll go back to that experience. We have a wonderful woman, Sarah Kane, who has created our social media presence via a website online and also our newsletters, and they've been very well received. So I think there's opportunity to reach, not only be available, but to reach out. And that comes with the commitment, right? Not only going to the meetings, but you're committed to what this community desires to know or what you think they need to know. So I'm not so much of a pull, I'm a little bit more of a push. But again, being curious, how do you like your information? I like to read it on a paper. How do you like it? I like to see it online. You know, so just understanding, and I did know that 2/3 of people don't have kids. They're either at this end coming in or have graduated out. So I think it's important.
It's critical.
And to really share what's going on, you know, really put out there what's going on in a way that's snackable and people can take in and either ask questions or move on in agreement.
You mentioned PTO has a social, media presence, and I don't know of any of that. That's just a piece of information, okay? I know nothing. Doesn't mean that I couldn't someday sit here and say, oh, if I go on Holliston PTO, is there a page? Okay, I could, but I haven't. I didn't know it, and nobody ever put it in front of me.
Well, make sure you know, yeah.
But that's the point being, I, as one of the 2/3, don't know what I don't know.
Right.
That's it. Bottom line. Don't know what I don't know. So when somebody comes forward and says, there's this going on over here, we need more money, all of a sudden I have to figure out all of it. So.
And if I can add, just from a risk communications perspective, if there is a hot button issue or something that's really good going on, issues don't get better with time, and you have to help create the space to have conversation or put information out for people to receive. And just as much as we talked about reputation, you know, getting that word out that we are a great place to live and we have great schools.
Okay, so we did talk about the de-leveling. We've already beaten that poor one to the ground. So at the end of your term, when you look back at the 3 years, assuming that you've been elected, if you look back at the 3 years, what do you hope you've accomplished?
I really know, and I hope that people will see that I'm a committed leader. I have discipline. I lead with my heart. I always come from a place of I want to listen first and be curious. I want to have budgets that make sense to meet the need of our students and district and serve our community. So that's one. I want to know that and have a record that I showed up, I listened, and I followed through. That's one. 2, the budget's really important. Balancing that, projecting that, executing that. I think I want to be part of something that feels good, and budgets never feel good, but as good as it can feel. And 3, I hope that whether it's a policy that was maintained or a policy that was implemented, our students benefit from it, and it impacts their well-being, their health, and their ability to learn. So I kind of stuck with the higher level, but I think within that, I really have to come from a place of learning and listening first, and then looking in the rearview mirror, say, I showed up, I listened, and I followed through.
Okay. So at this point, you get that 2-minute pitch.
Okay.
To do that, you're gonna look at camera 1.
Okay.
And you can. It's your time.
Okay. I have my notes to keep me on task,
That's
because as you can see, I'm shy and I don't like to talk. But I will start. Hi, I am Barbara Ryan, and I'm running for school committee because I care deeply about our community, the education of our children, and the well-being of our teachers and staff. My goal is to create more cohesion among the groups and individuals that make our school run, and support our teachers and staff who work so hard every day, and with whom we share the responsibility of educating and shaping the future with, our children. We moved here in 2019 to Holliston, and my family and I have experienced firsthand the strength and generosity of our community. We were drawn by the reputation of the schools and the welcoming atmosphere. This is where we've put down roots, we've raised our boys, and we've been able to give back to our community. I have done this through the PTO volunteering and leadership and a couple other committees I volunteer with. And I've built meaningful relationships and friendships in the 6 years that I've lived here. And that's given me a deeper understanding of what I think the schools need to thrive. My career as a leader has spanned 30 years in public and private sectors, including 20 years in the Army. I've served in a variety of roles, mainly in healthcare, but that is CEO, COO, Chief of Staff, and even at the bedside and as a pediatric nurse practitioner. Currently, I'm an active parent and an advocate for good, and I bring experience, discipline, and heart to everything I do. If elected, I will show up, I will listen, and I will follow through. I'm not here to create issues or change for the sake of change, and I have absolutely no hidden agendas. I am here to support the great work that's already happening in our schools, and I want to help guide thoughtful improvements where needed with commitment, common sense, and heart. My deep sense of duty is propelling me to run. I want our schools to continue to provide every learner the opportunity to succeed and to reflect the excellence our teachers, staff, and schools deliver every day. I would be honored to earn your vote and to serve the town I proudly call home. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Barbara. And okay, folks, so that's a wrap on this interview as well. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Just Thinking. You've done your homework. Now please remember to vote on May 20th. It's important for you, your family, and our community. Thank you.